Hi, it's Kiffin Lebates here, and today I thought I would talk about CryptoPunks. Yes, that will be fun. Um, CryptoPunks are a collection of 10,000 24 by 24 pixel images that were created by a company called Lava Labs, and then 10,000 NFTs were minted that point to each of the individual 24 by 24 pixel images that are actually stored in one giant PNG file on the Lava Labs GitHub. So they're not on the blockchain, but the NFTs are, and the NFTs have token URI fields in them that indicate where on the image you need to go to find a particular image of a particular CryptoPunk. And they're very low resolution art. As I said, 24 by 24 pixels, 8-bit color, and they all have very similar shapes. So it's basically heads looking to the right. And they have, some of them have beards, some of them have earrings, some of them are zombies, some of them have hats and stuff like that. And they've been around for about 4 years or so, so they're not new to the block. However, in the last year, they have become of interest to the general public. And as a result, the NFTs have increased dramatically in price. We're talking 6 figures, sometimes 7-figure sums here, for entries on the Ethereum blockchain that point to a 24 by 24 pixel area in a large PNG file or image file on a GitHub server. So when you think about it like that, it is a bit bizarre. However, they have entered public culture. They are instantly recognizable. They've become iconic. And when you think about the fact that sketches by Picasso on pieces of paper are just graphite rubbed onto some processed wood pulp, well, that doesn't make rational sense either for those things to be worth 6 or 7 or 8 or 9 figure sums, but they are, because of their place in history and because of the personality that created them, the personality behind them. So it's not a rational market, but it is a very valuable one. And the interesting thing here is these individual images are very, very small. Now, when you're talking about copyright in the writing space, you can copyright an article or a book. What you can't copyright is a short phrase, because those kind of things could occur in conversation just quite easily. There has to be a limit. You can't just say, I'm going to copyright the word tree or the words walking in the forest is great, because it's too short. Other people should have the ability to use that phrase too. So where is the limit in artwork? Can 24 by 24 pixel images be copyrighted? Well, they do have a distinct feel to them, so maybe trademarking would make more sense in this case, because trademarks can be short. And then the problem is that trademarks apply to a particular area of industry. So you can trademark the name Apple when it's applied to a record company, and you can also trademark it separately when it applies to a computing company. And then the two aren't actually infringing each other, although apparently the two did have a bit of a fight. Back in the early days of Apple, they had a fallout with Apple Records over the name, but they got to keep the name in the end. So in a sense, sensibleness won out. So back to the CryptoPunks. Well, what happened was someone, I think it was OpenSea even, or maybe it was released on OpenSea, released an almost identical set of 10,000 CryptoPunks, and I think they called them CryptoFunks, and all they did was flip the images. Now, I think any judge looking at that case would say, yeah, you can't just take an image that belongs to somebody, flip it, and say now it belongs to you. However, what you can do is you can derive works from it that then become original works in their own right. So, for example, if you change enough of the image, it can still recognizably be a CryptoPunk-like entity, but as long as you're not directly copying a CryptoPunk off the 10,000 image PNG, or not just making a minor change, like changing 1 pixel, but you make it so that it looks like it fits in with the family, but there's nothing in there that you say, yeah, it's just that one with a minor tweak, then I think you should be okay. But copyright law is really difficult, and it really comes down to the individual cases. And as a result, if you're going to make your own CryptoPunks, then firstly, you're probably late to the game, so you're not going to make profit off them. And secondly, if you don't, then Lava Labs is not going to be interested, but if you do, then they might come after you and say that actually you're infringing our copyright here. And of course there is one final thing to this, which is that in the United States there is a particular act, the Digital Millennium Copyright Act, or DMCA, and that gives copyright holders or agents of copyright holders the right to send out takedown notices to places, websites for example, that are hosting images of stuff or text of stuff that the copyright owner thinks is an infringement. And it's kind of a warning shot, and the companies in the US take this very seriously. If YouTube gets a DMCA takedown notice from someone about a video, they automatically take it down, and then it's up to the person whose video was taken down to go back and say, well, I'm now petitioning you to put it back because I don't think I'm infringing copyright. They'd rather take the easy road, these hosting or platform companies, when it comes to dealing with this. Better take it down even if it isn't infringing, because we could get in a lot of trouble if it turns out it is, and we want to avoid getting lots and lots of costs associated with running our platform, is probably the thinking that's going on here. Anyway, so this video partially explains the reason why my profile picture has changed recently. I thought it would be fun to make a work based on the style of the CryptoPunks, which have now become almost universally recognized in the blockchain space, but it's clearly not one of the existing CryptoPunks because there is no blockchain Gandalf CryptoPunk out there. Anyway, so this was basically a long-winded way of me explaining why I think it's okay for me to make this image. Of course, Lava Labs can turn around and say we don't think it's okay, and then I will have to get rid of it, but I've not made any profit off it, so there's not any profit in it for them either, and I certainly don't think it dilutes the brand. Plus, I think it's an interesting discussion of the world of copyright, which is surprisingly complicated. So if you do have any problems with it, probably best to go and get a lawyer. That's it for today. Hope you found it interesting, and I'll see you in the next video soon. Bye for now.